Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby.
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast. I'm Dr. Justin Coulson. I love it when we get our listener questions. You can send them through podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au. That's podcasts with an S at happyfamilies.com.au. We've got an email here from Amy. She says, how do I manage the juggle when returning to work as a mum of a 2-year-old and 7-year-old with high emotional needs? I've got no idea how to work a routine in, but we can't afford not to have me back at work. Amy. I mean, you hear that and I kind of go, ouch, right? Because the cost of living is going up. Everybody's aware of it. It's getting harder and harder and harder as the Reserve Bank continues to increase interest rates. And there's a whole economic argument around this, that the people who can least afford it are the ones who are most impacted by it. There's so many other different ways that we could slow the economy down. But this is what they're doing, and this is what we're a huge portion of us are challenged by. So Amy's in a hard place, Kylie. She's got to go back to work. And when I read something like this, I just think life's not fair. Like, it's really, life is hard. You've got kids, you want to be with them, you want to be looking after them, and the economic reality of life means back to work.
I want to tread really lightly with my next comments because I don't want anyone to see me as condoning or making a judgment call here at all. But any decision we make around what we choose to do with employment or stay at home requires sacrifice. So as a stay-at-home mum, the sacrifice that we chose was that you would carry the entire financial load, which at times felt impossible, overwhelming.
Yeah, I remember when I was studying full-time across the week. I was working afternoons and evenings, and I was doing furniture removals on the weekend.
At one point you had 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah,
while
in addition to full-time study. Yeah,
full-time, and I had 3 little ones at home.
Yeah.
And the enormity of that meant that we kind of were paupers.
Oh, we were broke. So broke. I remember one time, do you remember this? This is a true story. We went to the park with some friends.
I knew you were going to share this.
And our baby girl was really upset, and we discovered that her mouth was full of like mouth ulcers or sores. Something had happened on the inside of her mouth, and she was just screaming. She's this brand new.
She'd been getting irritable for days, and we just couldn't work out what it was.
Yeah.
And while we're at the park, obviously I was holding her differently in natural lighting, and she opened her mouth, and I literally could see down her throat.
And it was just full of sores.
Hundreds of these little sores inside her mouth.
And so we spoke to our friends and said, we've got to get some medical help. So they took our eldest child home to our place while we went off to the doctor or the hospital or whatever.
We had to go to the hospital. It was a long weekend. There was no one open.
And so we gave them the house keys and they went in.
But I was mortified knowing what they were going to go home to, because they said, don't worry, just take as much time as you need. We'll cook Chanel some dinner and bath her. You just take what time you need. Just don't even think about us.
Yeah.
And we got in the car, left to go to the hospital. And while I am obviously huge anxiety around my little baby and what she's going through, all I could think about was the fact that they were going to open my fridge and my pantry and find nothing.
Yeah, it was like old Mother Hubbard. Like the cupboard was bare.
And what blew me away was that we came home that afternoon and we had to buy medicine for Abby and, spend hours at the hospital until they worked out what was going on.
Yeah, I think we were gone for like 4 or 5 hours.
We got home, dinner had been cooked.
Yeah.
With food that definitely was not from my pantry, and Chanel had been bathed and she was ready for bed. And when I opened my cupboards after they left, they had actually done a full pantry restock. So what I'm sharing now is not a judgment at all. But each of us makes a decision, and we have to decide and weigh up what sacrifice we're willing to live with.
Yeah, there's pain either way. If you go back to work, there's the pain of, well, how do I do this?
And leaving your children behind and knowing that their emotional needs, you can't physically meet them all the time because you're not there.
Yeah, and then there's pain if you choose not to go to work because, how do you feed your family? It's such an unfair situation. And so I really love the way that you've shared that. There's no judgment here, but I guess we're sharing this story, unscripted and unintended as it may be, because I guess we've been there. We understand. And while we chose different to what you're choosing, Amy, we just want to emphasize there are many families who are doing it really tough right now, and we get it. We've been there. Who knows? Maybe in the next few months we're going to be there again. Let's see what the RBA does. I mean, they're not being nice to mortgage holders right now, and we happen to have bought right when house prices were at their very highest when we moved to the coast. But I think we need to get a little bit practical here. Let's assume, as Amy has done, that we've got families who are being forced back into the workforce to meet those financial obligations as cost of living, rent, mortgages, fuel, food, everything is just going up and up and up and up. It's going to cost either way. I think we need to talk about the way through it. And the first thing that I want to emphasize, Kylie, is that there's no magic pill. There's no easy fix here. It's going to hurt regardless of what you do. And therefore, we do the very best that we can with what we have. Amy says that she's got 2 kids, 2 and 7, that are high needs. So when I hear that, the very first thing that I go to in my mind is, if I've got a high needs person, my job is not to fix them, but my job is to make sure that they feel seen, heard, and valued as much as possible. It means that I want to connect with them. It means that every chance that I get, I want to be engaging with them in a meaningful way. Whether they're 2 or 7, I want to hear them. I want to be in their world whenever I can, because obviously I can't be there all the time. And that means oodles of empathy and oodles of play and making the most of those moments. When you've got a crazy schedule, maybe you work out, okay, so this is what we're going to do in the mornings, except when mum's not here, in which case dad's going to take care of it. Or if dad's got to take off, maybe you can tag team, maybe not with your own parent, but with your parents, the in-laws. Bring the village in somehow. To me, the quality of the connection matters most. When we talk about research around resilience and kids doing well emotionally, one really strong, caring adult in their life is all it takes. So if we can't be there, who are the other strong, caring adults that we can bring into their world, and how can we make sure that their needs are being met?
Maybe it's not a grandparent. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's, somebody else who's got children similar ages who is in the same boat. And maybe, your rosters work out that you can kind of share the load a little bit. You have their kids, they have your kids.
Yeah. That's with no disrespect at all to people who are doing out of school hours care. You'd much rather have them at their friend's house playing in the backyard on the trampoline and hanging out than being stuck at school until you get to finally pick them up when your shift ends. Obviously, we do what we have to, and there are plenty of people who are using those services because they have to. But I really think there's value in being as creative as possible around this and building the community and finding ways that you can work with your children and their friends parents to lighten the load and make it an adventure, make it exciting for the kids. The second thing that I'm thinking of to help Amy and people in that situation is, Amy mentioned routine is really hard. And so...
Well, shift working, she's hours all changing all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I want to get my highlighter out and put a big line through the word predictability, which is kind of unfair because, again, with shift work and with what's going on in Amy's life, predictability is really hard to achieve. But to the extent that you can create a sense of predictability, I mean, dad's shifts don't change. So what can happen in the morning or what can happen in the afternoon so that feels predictable?
Well, even if the predictability is around how mum leaves the house when she goes on shift, obviously her shifts are changing all the time, but if there's predictability around the movements that take place when she does that, and I mean, does mum, for the 10 minutes before she leaves the house, read a story to the children before she leaves? Do you know what I mean? That's what it might not necessarily be at the same time every day, but the reality is when mum's going to leave, I know that we're going to sit down and have a cup of milk and read my favourite story
Yeah.
before she leaves? Or is it that we jump on the trampoline for 5 minutes?
They work. They're great ideas. I really like that. I'm glad you added that.
What's number 3?
So this is the last idea that I'm going to share here. I mean, we could talk about this for a long, long time, but the last idea that I want to share is don't sweat it too much. Kids are extremely adaptable. They get it. They'll deal with it. And so long as you don't become overly anxious about it, so long as you don't turn it into a thing.
I was about to say, like, your anxiety levels will flow on.
If you make it a thing, it'll become a thing. But if you just accept that this is what we're doing now and this is how it's going to be. And things like, I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast so many times and in my blog articles and books, giving them in fantasy what they can't have in reality. When they say, but I don't want you to leave, Mummy, you can say, I know, sweetheart, wouldn't it be awesome if there was some beautiful magic that we could click our fingers and I could stay here forever and I could never ever leave you, even when you're 80. And I could still, and turn it into something really big and turn it into a story and an adventure. Lots of empathy, but a clear limit. Don't you just wish, wouldn't it be great? But I have to go. But let's make it really fun. Let's read that chapter. Let's jump on the trampoline. Let's walk to the end of the driveway and wave. Let's, whatever the process is when mum's heading off to work, create that. And don't make a big deal about the fact that this is what life is right now. It just is. And therefore, because it is, it is.
I remember when Emily started at kindy for the very first time and we had to say goodbye, and there was a little book. I don't remember the book. I obviously wasn't there to read it, but they shared it with the kids and they got all the parents to give the kids a kiss on the inside of their hands, and then they closed up their hands as we left. And then the book obviously talked to them about the fact that they had mummy's kiss with them wherever they went.
Okay.
And I just remember Emily coming home and showing me her hand at the end of the day and telling me that she'd carried my kiss with her everywhere she went. And so as you were talking, I was just thinking about these little kids and how, you know, their need for predictability and routine and structure. And maybe it's a little soft toy or a blankie or something that they only get when mum leaves. So they have a piece of mum. Maybe it's, you know, if she's super duper creative, she might make something out of an old T-shirt or something that so it smells like her. Just something little that they know they only get when mum's not there, just to feel like they're close to her.
We really hope that this has been useful. One last tip. If you've listened to this podcast episode and you're doing fine, you've got enough money in the bank, the interest rate hikes aren't bothering you, and nor is the increased cost of living, and you're doing fine, but you know somebody who is doing it tough. Maybe mum has to go back to work in addition to dad. Can I recommend that you reach out to them and just say, hey, I know that this is tricky. How can I help? Can I help with the pickups? Can I help with the babysitting? Can I help with the mornings? Can I do something to be involved in your life, even if it's just one morning a week or one afternoon a week? What can I do to help? Because I care about you. I just think about that family, that couple who helped us that time, and I don't think we'll ever forget their kindness. It was just a grocery shop, and they were doing very, very well financially. So for them, a couple of $100 on groceries are probably nothing. But for us, I mean, it's still the beauty of that gift is incalculable. It still moves me today. So maybe there's a way that you can help as well. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rowan from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. For more information about how you can make your family happier, email us podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au or check out happyfamilies.com.au.